welcome to another edition of the Silverbird Selection, and today I'm taking a look at a Silver Range release from 1987 called Gunstar, and this was nominated for me to play by Richard Terrien. Hopefully I've got your surname pronounced correctly this time. So this is a pretty common game to find out there. My copy didn't cost a lot of money, it was £2.49, so let's check it out. Here we go then with a look at the packaging of the game, and the first thing you can say about it is it's very vibrant. So the front cover's got a nice purple background, bright orange and yellow logo for Gunstar, yellow space fighters attacking a green UFO type mothership. Very colourful, that's the best way to describe it, and not too bad, pretty attractive I would say. Spine's got the Gunstar logo on of course, and then the back cover we've got the usual couple of screenshots, which you can see, if you hadn't already guessed, it's a space shooter of some description. And the blurb says, join the Gunstar fleet and fly your pulse fighter against the alien hordes. So yeah, definitely a space shooter. Inside the inlay, and it's the usual thing you'd expect from the Silver Range packaging, so you've got the big list of games here with the little dots against which systems they're available for. Pretty comprehensive list at this point. The usual Silver Club advert, which we'll skip past onto the instructions, which say Gunstar, copyright 1987 software creations. The blurb about the game is about as generic as it comes. The year 1997 witnessed an unprovoked attack on Earth by a people unknown. Our primitive Star Wars defences were quickly overwhelmed and the Earth's population enslaved. The survival of the human race rested in the hands of a research team, blah 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 blah. Gunstar fleet, their mission the destruction of the alien forces and the liberation of the Earth. Very generic space shooter background story, some loading instructions, and then the gameplay instructions at the bottom there. Joystick import 2, and there are 5 stages: the fighter stage, the asteroid stage, the alien command ship, the alloy robot, and the docking stage. So the game is loading, and here's the loading screen. Nice Firebird logo at the top there, nicely done. Nice Gunstar logo, very spacey. A lot of black space on this, a very minimalist loading screen, but quite a nice one. It does really look like a TIE fighter flying in front of a large moon there, and some rocks and things in the foreground. So yeah, quite minimal use of actual colours on this, and a lot of use of just black, but yeah, quite nicely done. The artist of that, by the way, it looks like is Griffin. I think that says in the bottom right corner. So yeah, reasonably atmospheric loading screen, and one of the better ones from the Firebird range I would say. Okay, so here's the title screen. As you can see, it says Gunstar at the top. It also says press H to view high scores, press fire to start, and it's got a copyright there, RMK 1987. There's also a scrolling message in the little green box bottom right, which is telling you who did the music and the gameplay and the copyright and all that kind of stuff. So it's copyright there, software creations, distributed by Firebird. I think of all the scrolling messages I've seen, this has got to be the smallest area that one occupies. So it says there that the music and sound effects by Peter Clark, and that music's pretty decent on the title screen. Not amazing, but not a bad SID tune. So that pretty much sums it up for the title screen. Oh, I didn't mention it's got a scrolling starfield in the background as well. Again, exactly the sort of thing you'd expect from a space shooter. But overall, not too bad. As you can see, it has got a high score table as well. Let's just press H to see that. Those are the high score tables at the moment, or the high scores I should say. Obviously, hopefully see that again when I get to put my name in it, depending on how well I do in the game. So yeah, overall, pretty nice presentation. Let's crack on and play the game. Okay, so the game kicks off, and the first thing you get is a profile of your pilot, which is very detailed. We've got a pilot called Carol D, hobby firearms, ship name Firebird, and home was something I missed, it didn't really matter. Then you get this little intro as you launch off with your pilot. And the first level is Alien Fighters. What we've got here is a multi-stage, I mean it's basically a gallery shooter, like you sort of, I guess the nearest thing I approximate it to is something like Gorf or Phoenix, where you've got multiple levels to get through, different kind of challenges on each one. So this one, you can move up and down, and it has got the star field, so it gives the illusion of being a scrolling shooter, but there's not really any background to illustrate that. So you basically get some swirling enemies on this first level that you've got to eliminate, or eventually they will just disappear. And then you'll move on to the next level. And the next level is an asteroid field. You've got to just avoid the asteroids. Again, you can move up and down the screen. You can't fire, or you can't fire on this. If you did, it wouldn't do any good anyway. So yeah, simply just avoid the asteroids to move on to the next level. Some of the asteroids move faster than others, and then you just get through that and job's good. Then you move on to level 3, which is the alien command ship, and this thing, you can see a number of hits that, oh, there we go, there goes the first life. You can see a number of hits in the bottom right corner. We'll try and get through to that again. So this time you'll see we've got a different pilot, this one called Ripley, hobby killing, ship name Striker, home Pleiades. So Ripley is obviously a reference to the character from Alien, and Pleiades was an arcade game, so that might be a reference to that as well, which incidentally had a similar sort of idea to this, of different stages that you have to progress through. So these ships are really annoying because they just kind of swirl around and they never really go into a formation that you can shoot particularly easily. Some of them you can shoot, but some of them you've just got to let them sort of swirl around down the sides and hope you don't get shot. There we go, that's that level continued again, or completed I should say. Through the asteroid field again, which is generally pretty easy, but sometimes you'll get two quite close together that mean you end up crashing into one. That was close, but managed to avoid it. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen after I said that. So then you lose your second life and it's back to the fact file. Ship name Fireball this time, and the little launch sequence, and away you go again with the first level. And you can already imagine that this is fairly annoying when you've played it a few times. There's a lot of bullets that fly around on certain levels that will kill you instantly, and then you get sent back to have to play these earlier levels over and over again. So let's move on to the asteroid field. So while we're going through the asteroids again, hopefully I'll get through them this time. And there's a couple of things on the right hand side on the status bar that I haven't mentioned. There's fuel, which is gradually, oh for God's sake, it's killed me again, and that's game over now. I did get my name in the high score table though, with an odd score of 3,756 points. So there you go. So let's have another try of it. So once again we get the fact file. I think you've seen enough of those. Let's just see what the pilot's called this time. Rob Walker, hobby Payne, ship name Nemesis, home Porcadile or something, I don't know. Well, you can skip those with the fire button, which I'm going to do from this point onwards probably. The launch sequence you can't skip though. That's got a nice tune on it though, to be fair, nice little ditty. And the sound effects are generally quite nice. The graphics pretty much look like they've been ported over from the Spectrum. Single colour sprites, reasonably well defined, but not a lot of detail to them. What I was talking about before I got killed in the last attempt was, same thing again, I can't get out of the way of that, and if you move either side, the fireball gets you. What's our pilot called this time? Paulie. Yeah, let's move on. These pilots soon die. So I'll try again to explain what was on the right hand side. You've got fuel, which is gradually depleting, and the final stage is a mothership where you can refuel. And then the other thing you've got there is temperature, and as you fire, that temperature goes up, which is not really a problem on these earlier stages, but it does become a problem when you're trying to shoot the guns on the mothership level and the level after that, if I ever get to it. Let's try again. Probably the key is to be a bit further up the screen so you can react a bit better. No, oh yeah, I just got away with that. So yeah, it's just an avoiding level basically. So let's have another go at this command ship. You've got a number of shots, and also it does have a different configuration from one attempt to the next, or that's random or varied I should say. It's not necessarily always different, but you can see you've got to shoot these guns I think 10 times each. Oh no, and the bullet's flown out and killed me again. It's quite an infuriating game. Being thrown back to the beginning every time is just really poor. So let's give it another go. Oh, and that's killed me straight away with a diagonal shot, and that's game over again. Didn't even get my name in the high score table this time. Let's see if I can just show you the mothership level in a bit more detail and try and describe what's going on there without being killed. I don't think you need to see those first two stages again. Okay, so let's give it another shot. It's not been going well at all. I've had numerous games and got nowhere close to shooting this thing. But you've got a number of shots in the corner of the screen that you've got to complete to destroy the boss, if you call it that, the mothership. And I think it's basically 10 shots per gun pretty much. But you've also got to watch out for the temperature of the gun. Oh, it got me. Oh, that's annoying. I was close that time. I'll carry on for the rest of this game and then that'll be it, because I'm really losing the will to live with it. The first two levels, generally you can get through them and they're quite boring when you've had to play them so many times, but then it gets ridiculously difficult and not entirely fair either. Oh, can't even get past the first level now. Not entirely fair either, because there's just no chance to react to those diagonal shots from the mothership. And the more you play it, the more infuriating it gets. I have got past the mothership a couple of times, and the following level is basically exactly the same. It's just a different configuration of guns, and it's got kind of like a robot face in the middle of it. But ultimately it's exactly the same principle of just shooting the guns. So we'll see if I can get to that on this go, and if not, then this will be all you see. I'm not even going to get past that now, no, because I can't get through that gap. Oh, it's just such an annoying game. I got my name in the high score table at least. So let's get on with the review scores, and then I can put this game away and not have to play it again. So packaging, pretty decent, nothing outstanding. It's all very generic, this game, to be honest, and it's pretty generic packaging but reasonably nicely presented. So I'm going to give that 7 out of 10. Presentation in game is pretty decent as well. Nice loading screen, reasonably good title screen, lots of information on the status panel and everything like that, and a high score table. So 7 out of 10 for the presentation there. Again, pretty generic, nothing outstanding, but not too bad. Graphics though are fairly dull, very obviously Spectrum ported type graphics for the most part, although there is a bit more detail on the mothership when you do get to it, and the following level as well. But overall I'm not that impressed with the graphics, so I'm going to give them a 5. Sounds pretty nice though. You've got nice music on the title screen, you've got a little introductory tune when you launch, although that sequence does get really boring, and also a little tune at the end of the game as well, and the in-game sounds are pretty typical space shoot 'em up sound effects. So I'm going to give the sound 7 out of 10. And finally, playability, well, I mean, it's playable in as much as it's clear what you've got to do. It's got a few nice touches, like the profiles, if you like, the fact files about your pilots, which are somewhat randomly selected, the different categories. And the gameplay, you know, it's a shooting game with a bit of avoiding asteroids and stuff like that. Oh, but it's just so infuriating. It's like exhaustingly infuriating having to go back to the start of the first stage every time you lose a life and go through that launch sequence. It's just really annoying. So with all that in mind, it's a pretty dull, generic space shooter. I'm going to give it a playability score of 4 out of 10. That gives it a total score of 6.1, which is probably slightly better than it deserves. And for me, it's just so annoying that it's definitely not worth the $1.99 asking price. If you had nothing better to play, then maybe you'd persevere with it, but by God is it annoying. So there you go, that's my thoughts on Gunstar. Pretty poor game in my opinion. If you've got any thoughts about the game, then let me know in the video comments. And I'll be back soon with another game review, which will hopefully be a little bit more fun than this one.